and welcome to The Insight. My name is Eugene Kwach, and of course, this is The Insight, where all matters politics meet scrutiny. All matters current affairs also get here as we get to deliberate on them through different perspectives on thought leaders, as different thought leaders bring their perspectives on different issues that we're going to discuss. And of course, we do this intentionally through the lenses of these. We're going to help us in discussing this conversation. Our first segment explores President William Ruto's recent visit to the Western region. But before we get into that, we'll take a closer look at the structure of Kenya's sugar industry, its ownership, and the impact of local sugar prices compared to imports, particularly in Western Kenya. Also, we turn our attention to a topic that has stirred strong emotions in Kenya, the fight against corruption. Is the president's Mambo ni Matatu, the panacea to what has historically ailed Kenya's economy? Moving on, we'll shift our focus to the intricate dynamics of the ongoing bipartisan talks between President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga. One key clause in the framework agreement has caught our attention: the stipulation that issues will be submitted to Parliament for consideration. But what does this mean for Raila Odinga's position in these talks? How significant is this clause, and how might it affect the negotiation process? Well, we talk about these issues, and of course this conversation begins right now, tonight. We also shift focus to President William Ruto's visit to Western. What is your overview of the... So thank you so much, gentlemen. We begin this conversation right away. And I'll start with you, maybe Odweo Kennedy, if you will maybe tell us of what you think, because we want to start our conversation about Mambo ni Matatu. But as we begin this conversation about Mambo ni Matatu, we have to begin from first things first. President William Ruto visited the Western Kenya. What is generally your overview of what we have experienced so far?
Thank you very much, and welcome to our viewers. I think in the recent past, and even in our recent history, William Ruto, the president, His Excellency, has been a man of mutual ground. In other words, he's been a leader who's preferred engaging with people. He's never been a boardroom kind of leader or president, or even when he was the deputy president. As much as people might think that he was campaigning, but he's a guy who's always lived his leadership through interactions with people, and that's what we've seen. So we've seen him go to Central, we've seen him go to Nyanza, we've seen him go to Coast to unveil projects and engage with the people. So basically, coming to Western, this is not the first time he's coming since he became president. So one of the things is, one of the problems we've had as a country is electing people who then after that hide in boardrooms, don't understand what is happening, don't engage with the people. So we end up at the mercy of people delivering reports to the king, reports that suit the ears of the king. So I think for me, the president engaging with the people is I have no problem with that. I think as a person, I would like a leader who can come and engage with the people, feel the mood on the ground, understand some of these things, so that even when you receive intelligence, and some of that intelligence, you can relate it with what you felt on the ground.
This specifically, the Western tour, what do you make of it so far?
The Western tour, from it was a development perspective, but people will also view politics out of it. But President Ruto has been a leader who has always aspired to quote individuals and Kenyans from every corner of this country. So, Western region, being one of the regions that has traditionally, especially never supported the regime with President Uhuru Kenyatta, I believe William Ruto, the president, is trying to court them, is trying to engage with them so that they are part of his agenda as a government. That's why you realize when he went to Western, there are thorny issues in Western. That's why you realize the first county aggregated in industrial park was launched in Western, in Busia County. It was the first one. So that just shows that as opposed to traditionally where presidents would focus in their regions or the people who voted for them, this is a president who has decided that we will serve Kenyans as Kenyans and Kenya as a whole.
Okay.
And that's why I believe that's one of the reasons why he visited Western.
Okay. Sir, let me come to you, Swale Mohammed. And you maybe also tell me what you think about President Ruto's tour. But of course, he has not just visited Western tour, not just visited Western alone, but the other time he was in Mount Kenya. He's now visiting Western. What is his intention from where you sit as a political analyst?
Thank you, Eugene. I want to tell you that President Ruto has the overview on the issues and matters affecting the Western region and the whole country at large. As far as the matter of Western tour visit is concerned, I can tell you President William Ruto spoke on key issues. One of them was the sugar industry, and that is capturing the agricultural sector. And as far as the development is concerned, President William Ruto has the know-how. As you always know him, he engages a lot with the common man. He has the overall know-how on the cartelism and on the matters affecting the agricultural sector in the Western area and in the entire country practicing the agricultural activities. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And let me just ask you this. You just say that the president understands and he has the wherewithal and the know-how of what is actually ailing Western Kenya, and particularly the sugar industry. Must the president visit Western Kenya for him to curb this cartelism? He has been in government for almost a year.
No, we need to have facts the way they are. Mm-hmm. We need not to run away from the truth. Mm-hmm. The presidency of William Ruto is only merely a year. Mm-hmm. There are powers limited with the president, and there are powers limited with other cadre of leadership. Mm-hmm. Since he became president, I think is when he's rooting down to curb the issues affecting the agricultural sector. Mm-hmm. And as he promised during his campaign, he'll ensure that he uproots all the individuals that are coming as barriers when it comes to food production and any other matter affecting the nation.
Okay.
Yes.
I would want us to maybe get to understand the structure of this sugar industry, but maybe before we do that, Owade, Wakili, you will maybe tell us your view generally of the president's visit, because it's not the first time that he's visiting regions, and we believe that he's going to visit other regions. He has been visiting, he's been walking across the country. The certain time, most conspicuously, he was in Mount Kenya region the other time, and now he's just finishing his tour to the Western. What do you think he has brought the Western, and from where you see it, how do you view it, and how do you think other people view it?
Well, thank you, Eugene, for again having me on this panel today. Mm-hmm. Generally, I'd say the president is within his mandate to tour the country, to tour whichever region he chooses. The president also has advisors who advise him on what kind of projects he needs to launch, or he needs to revive in whichever areas of the country. But just like his tour to the Mount Kenya region, the Western tour has raised several questions, constitutional matters, governance matters, matters of policy, and basically business. And by business, I'm referring to the sugarcane industry. So it's coming at a very critical time, especially in the Western Kenya region, which relies heavily on sugarcane production and marketing. So these are very critical discussion. I think, as I said before, he's within his mandate, but we really need to understand that whatever the president or any state officers say out there during their tours, they mean a lot in terms of where has the country been and what does the government portend for the country going forward. It also helps the government actually clarify its policies on certain key areas. Remember, during the campaigns, this government had actually gone to most areas of Kenya, most regions, but now they have a chance to actually tell the people what are they doing and what do they plan. So it's a good time to inform citizens on the government's plan and a way forward. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. As we move on, because we've talked about raising constitutional questions and a lot of things, but before we come to that, because actually we want to go with this conversation as it flows. I want to come to you, Odweo, and ask you about the structure of Kenya's sugar industry. If at all, maybe you can give us an understanding of how important sugar industry is important to the Western people, and what maybe this cartelism has done to the economy of the Western, and why you think that maybe what the president is saying could maybe be for the betterment for the Western people.
Yeah, one, I'll speak as someone who has grown up in the Western region and as someone who has been there during the good days, Mumias Sugar and Nzoia, all the way to the privatization stage and to the total collapse. The sugarcane was the main, almost the only cash crop, actually the only cash crop for the entire Western region. And I'm talking about Busia, I'm talking about Bungoma, parts of Kakamega, large parts of Kakamega, parts of Vihiga, all the way stretching to the Nyanza region. So you realize that there was so much over dependence on the sugarcane farming by the farmers, to the extent that when the industry collapsed, lives totally shut down. The problem started, it's not like it started today. It's a problem that started, there were people who took advantage of the privatization. And then some people started doing their own unscrupulous businesses there, here and there. Vested interests came in. But then now the worst bit of it came in when, with some of these names that are being mentioned. Because Mumias, during its heyday, had what we call a nucleus. Mumias used to control over 50% of the sugar in the country, and they had a nucleus of over 3,000 hectares, and they had listed farmers. But now we've gotten to an era where we have someone who is purporting to be crushing sugar from the local farmers. He has no nucleus, as the law might require, and he doesn't even need the cane from the farmers. And when I tell you he doesn't need the cane, I'm telling you as a farmer, because there are people who grow cane, and then they don't come to harvest. There are people who are forced to sell it. When you sell to someone else, they come for you. That's when they come for you. So you realize that at the moment what we've had is a situation where someone acquires a milling license, puts up a factory, he doesn't have a nucleus like the law would expect, but you see the shelves are very full of sugar, but they are not crushing anything. If they are doing, then whatever they are crushing is just a matter of covering up. So it's something that has been grown over time. It's not like that. It's not that it's not something that is known to the government. It's known they have been beneficiaries. Today, I'll tell you for free, my friend, there's been a lot of Mumias branded Mumias flooded in supermarkets. I think you've seen. But when you go to Western, Mumias sugar, that machine bellows once in a week. Ile tu ya kuonyesha there is something. So the machine, you don't see any cane coming into the factory. I'm telling you as someone who has seen, you don't see any cane coming into the factory. So you don't see anyone coming to look for. Actually, they just planted some sugar cane in the nucleus, which is not even ready for harvesting. Okay. So there's no sugar cane that is being bought. There's no sugar cane that is being crushed, but there's a lot of sugar in the factory. Okay. So for me, it's not just the criminal part. It's very unethical and very disrespectful to the people of Kenya, because the people of Kenya have built a global brand called Mumias Sugar. You are using that brand to package what we don't even know, and that is a fact. To package even what we don't know, and then you sell to us. That is the worst form of fraud, in my opinion.
Okay. But again, the president has spoke so, can I say, emotionally about the Mumias Sugar issue. Until, of course, we heard of the Mambo ni Matatu. But before we come to the Mambo ni Matatu, which I believe was very critical, even when Owade spoke about raising constitutional issues, Swali, maybe you can tell us of the blueprint, because you've told us about the president has got a know-how, the wherewithal of specific issues that and how you will handle them. And now we are talking about matters Western, and particularly on this sugar industry. The president wants to revamp the sugar sector. What is the blueprint of how the government will want to revamp the sugar sector? And how do you think it's even going to affect or the economy in general of the Western? And how long will this take?
Thank you, Eugene. You know, matters of Western region is affecting the entire country. Not only the Western, as far as the employment is concerned, as far as the production is concerned. I think the president is steadfast, and is very much focused on reviving and uprooting the rotten individuals. The reason as to why Mumias and other companies which have been supporting the economy of this republic has gone down is because of the political era. Let me tell you, for example, you understood the other time when the MP of Mumias East, the Honorable, how do you call him? The Honorable, this young guy. He said, Salasia, Peter Salasia, PK. He said categorically, in the presence of the president, that the political leadership is affecting the economical leadership. For instance, when an investor comes in, he bribes the member of parliament or the area political leadership to enable him transact his shoddy stuffs, his shoddy deals. Now that the country, the governance system we have is presidency, not parliamentary, people won't complain that much. Even if they complain, they will have nothing to do. They have no say. So the very first thing to happen is the president to crack whip on the rotten parliamentarians coming along that area or along the regions where such are affected. Or another thing, the president to mark, of which, you know, is a genius guy.
Okay.
You understand the other time he spoke categorically of an individual.
Okay.
He had marked these people, and these people had no option.
Okay, but now talking about the specific blueprints, what are these that you, apart from just doing away with these bad leaders, what else? This is the major issue that is affecting the revamping of...
Eugene, the president has got a proper policy that is going to enhance the Western region and any other area practicing any agricultural activity to be on the track. There is proper policy as far as the Kenya Kwanza is concerned, and there is proper streamline that is going to enable the system works.
Okay. Wakili, I want us to, I know you have something to say.
Yes.
But even before you talk about that, even as you talk about that, you also talked about some of the issues that were raised actually during the president's visit to the Western Kenya. I would love, maybe you just intimated about them. Maybe if you can delve into the bit of what these constitutional issues are. Yes.
I think the first thing, Eugene, that I would like to say is that we are not... we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. We have a constitution. We have laws, regulations, and policies on how to handle issues. I think the main problem we are facing as a country is the lack of respect for the law. And this stems right from the top to the bottom. The former CS Matiang'i once warned us that we could have a government full of tenderpreneurs. The former CS looked at some of those people and he told us that some of them had issues. My brother said that the president should really focus on removing these rotten people or these bad people. But I would ask, what is the test for being bad? What's the rationale upon which you can look at somebody and say and determine yourself whether they're rotten or not? I think we are not being honest. The honesty comes from this angle, Eugene. If the president goes to the public fora and tells some people that they have three options, while at the same time, we have CSs, we have heads of parastatals who are appointed after their cases were withdrawn by the DPP and these institutional organs without basis. Most of them were charged with corruption cases. What were we told? That the cases were politicized. Now, are we expecting these people to actually take charge of leading this country on an non-corruption path? I think we are not being honest with ourselves. The other issue is this, which I wanted to talk about in relation to the respect to the rule of law. The most unique thing for me that is also a governance and rule of law issue is that we have institutions that are in charge of investigating, prosecuting, and actually handling all these matters. If it is a criminal matter, as my friend said, that this is not just a criminal issue, it is an ethical or moral issue. We have the EACC. What have they said about it? We have the DPP, DCI. What have they said? We have the Federation of Sugarcane, stakeholders within the sugarcane sector. What have they said about these issues? Have their views been taken before we see a national leader stand and address citizens and warn some people that it's either they'd go to heaven, with whatever that means, or they'd be deported, or they just go to prison? We have laws, we have rules and institutions that are in charge.
Thank you, Akili.
Can I just handle one final issue?
Yes.
The other issue that I wanted to raise in relation to that is we have leaders who have an oath of office that is binding to them. Let them respect it. If anything, if we are to talk about cartels, the question that we need to ask ourselves, who are these cartels?
Okay.
If we have national leaders who have information, why can't they tell us who these cartels are and present them to court?
Okay.
So let us have a rule of law, not a rule by fiat.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a question that is being asked even by Wakili himself. But again, I have a question about the president's recent tirades, of course, thrown around about cartelism and how he wants to finish the cartelism in Western Kenya. First of all, did the president have to go to Western Kenya for him to maybe threaten these cartels or do away with them, these specific cartels? But again, another question around this cartelism, because the president says mambo ni matatu. When you talk about deportation orders without due process, sending suspects to jail without mention of the courts, or worse, sending the perpetrators to a date with their makers. Of course, these have been touted by the president. Are these the panacea to this cartelism that has affected the Western Kenya for a long time? Do you think it brings a question, or it raises questions about due process and justice? What do you think? Is this the panacea? What the president is doing is now this is the way to mitigate the cartelism?
I think on the issue of whether the president had to go to Western before making that proclamation, I want to bring to the attention of our viewers and Kenyans that Kenya has 1 state house and 6 state lodges. The president is at liberty to operate from any of those at any time. 2, the president is at liberty, and as a person, this is what I've always wanted. Ulitutafuta ukitafuta kura. Mbona upotee? You looked for the people when you were looking for votes. Continue engaging with them, regardless of. So that's not a question for me. So let's come to the issue of what people are calling the threats. My brother, I want to tell you, and this is something that I believe, he who does not respect the life of others does not deserve a life themselves. That's why even the Constitution, there's something called the death penalty. That's why even in countries like the US, there are states that have the death penalty. Nini najaribu kusema ndugu yangu?
Yes.
We have the law.
Yes.
But the law is like a right. Okay. A right is only as important to you to the extent that it does not infringe on mine. Okay. The president was very categorical. The president did not talk about investors or what. The president was very specific. Okay. The moment you become a constitutional delinquent, we deal with you in any manner that ensures that we solve our problem.
Okay.
If the US had followed that constitution we insist, Pablo Escobar bado angekuwa anasumbua watu huko Colombia. If as a country, as a people, we need to understand that there are cases where even the constitution can be put aside.
Okay.
So when we are looking at this issue, we need to understand, you need to ask ourselves, sometimes when you localize these issues, that's when you understand their effect.
Okay,
Kwa sababu, let me just ask one question, ndugu yangu nikimaliza.
Yes.
I am talking about localization. Imagine someone comes, my brother, grabs your land here. But because he has a lot of money and connections, he takes you to court. He tells you tuende kotini. Munaanza kuzungushana kotini. As you are in court, this person is enjoying your land.
Okay.
Here.
Okay,
And you are suffering.
Your
What
point
do
is
you
at
do?
home. Let me give Swale a chance. Swale, you see, he's saying that your right is your right as long as it does not infringe on my right. And we get his point. Now, how can we actually have a balance where we do not infringe also others' rights, because it is their right. Wakili will tell you that it is the right to go to the court, because the court actually is where we get to interpret the laws, right, Wakili?
Yes.
That is where the laws are being interpreted. But now the question is, how can we have a balance so that the president is not seen as someone who acts as if he's above the law?
Thank you, Eugene. Whoever wants to see president as if he's above the law must be a madman of this nation. President has never broken any law. President is right. On his words, is right. He said, vitu ni matatu. You go to jail, exile, or to heaven. President is very, very right.
Okay.
There is no way which at any given manner, someone can come and grab your cup of tea, drinks it, and moves around. He does nothing about it. It is very uncouth. It is not in order at all. So let me tell you, Eugene,
Yes.
the judicial process of Kenya is also a stamping block to our development. Because the cartels, the so-called cartels, they take advantage of the judicial process. Someone comes and infringes your right. He takes you to court, or takes him to court. The court takes even 5 good years,
Okay.
or 10 or so,
Okay.
still meandering around, and he goes around the corridors and bribing everybody. I support the president on these words.
Okay.
It's either someone to go to heaven, or to exile, or to jail, because
Mambo
we
ni matatu.
can't continue with such kind of a society.
Okay, we are taking a very quick short break, but Wakili, after the break, I'll give you a chance maybe to talk about the justice system, because you're saying that the justice system, to some extent, has been a stumbling block to the progress or the development of this country in so many ways. But again, a question that I will ask is, why is not the president dealing with the justice system to ensure that we have a better flow of justice, so that he does not make these utterances which seem unconstitutional? There's a question to be 21144 is our SMS line. You get to talk to us at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Ochieng Kwach. We're taking a very quick short break, but we'll be right back.
Welcome to the E360 Degree Environmental Show. Embark on a journey of discovery as we unveil the intricate dance between nature and humanity. Our mission? To explore the impact of pollution on wildlife, ecosystems, and the well-being of people. Uncover the hidden environmental hazards from land to air to water. We spotlight the various environmental pollutants, chemicals, tech waste, radiation. Together, let's safeguard our planet. Let's engage in an evidence-based debate. Is carbon dioxide truly an air pollutant? Is carbon dioxide causing global warming? Is carbon dioxide triggering extreme weather events? Let's untangle the threads of perception and reality. From ancient wisdom to modern innovation, witness remarkable conservation practices, ecosystem revival, waste management triumphs, and other pollution control solutions. Together, we pave the path to protecting our environment and our well-being. Stay ahead with our environmental event calendar, delve deeper into our discussions with evidence-based resources, empower yourself with knowledge, and join the movement for a cleaner, safer environment. Tune in to the E360 Environmental Show for a panoramic view of the world's opportunities and challenges. Let's nurture our planet's harmony and shape a brighter future.
The Youth Hub, the show that gets your group on.
And I'm Rachel Gambo, the boss.
Here at Youth Hub, we bring you fun guests, interesting topics, and play interesting games.
Hapa juu kuna saa panaenanga huku chini. Hapa fikiri.
I think God is the most important factor in relationships.
Kama uko hivyo nje na unataka kuwa msanii, this is actually the best time yet.
Bahati yako na bahati.
So guys, we're going to play a very simple game. So it's a quick fire trivia.
Akena nikakosawa kana chena bado kajapiga
long tena na kitanda ni baridi.
Oya, wanangu wa ghetto, hebu tupigeni makofi kidogo. I like that. Bwana, hii ni Coin ni conversation of innovation with young minds. Hapa tuna discover talent, tunazileta kwako wewe ambaye ni mjanja, unaipenda talent, alafu unaisupport talent na kaa vizuri mjini.
I'm an artist, Kenyan artist. Saizi na work on kuimba, kuact.
I play the wind instruments, which I'm holding now. I also play string instruments.
Toto akisi, kumwacha siwezi. Toto abosonga na changanya ubongo.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to The Insight. Of course, we are continuing with this conversation about the president's visit to the western region of Kenya. But again, we also have lots of issues to discuss pertaining the bipartisan talk, but particularly on this clause that was introduced by the Kenya Kwanza team about taking issues to the parliament. We're going to delve that in a jiffy, but first of all, Wakili, you can maybe elaborate and tell us what you think about the justice system being a stumbling block to some of the developmental issues of our country. And do you think that actually what the president said could be right somehow? Because we saw that the Sarai group had actually withdrawn some of the cases against this Mumias company. Do you think that is the panacea now? And what is the justice system doing to the development generally?
I think, Eugene, I have several issues to raise or to respond to, but anyone saying the judiciary or the justice system is an obstacle to, as a blanket issue against development in Kenya is just, I think it's a very false proposition unless you have evidence on record. I think we are lying to ourselves if we say the judiciary is the only obstacle. If anything, the withdrawal of cases by the Rai group, we have to look at this thing and the circumstances around it. This somebody who is abducted by people allegedly or from institutional organs recognized in Kenya, and then days later on we have the President of the Republic going to the Western region and then saying that such people, of course, we all know that these people have interest in the Western region, especially at Mumia Sugar. Either they fly out of the country to exile, or they go to heaven, whatever that means, or they choose to go to prison. Eugene, let us not forget that the Constitution clearly says, under Article 131, that the President has the obligation and mandate to uphold human rights. He has the obligation to safeguard the rule of law and to promote the realization of the Constitution as a whole. The Constitution has basic rights. For instance, the right to fair trial, or the right or the presumption of innocence, until you're proven guilty. These are questions including the matter of access to justice under Article 48, and when we go to Article 50 that talks about fair trial, it is a right that's non-derogable. You do not have any obligation as the president. And honestly, I'm wondering why my friends would say we go back to the rule of the jungle. I'm wondering why they would say at some point you have to suspend the Constitution and assume there's no law. Let us not lie to ourselves. There are some rights under our Constitution that you cannot vitiate, like the right to fair trial, the right to presuming that you are guilty or not. If anything, my friend here talked about constitutional delinquents, who even should be, any action should be taken against them. I think that is a very wrong and false premise, because we have institutions, we have organs who have that mandate. Who determines who is a constitutional delinquent? You have due process. The question of due process, you have to look at the law, you have to look at how this whole matter is handled. My third issue, Eugene, is this, which relates to the first issue. We have separation of powers. We have the judiciary. Let the judiciary play its role. If anything, we've seen some judges who were transferred just the other day for making conservatory orders against, they were perceived to have made them against the government. But in actual sense, the law allows judges to make such orders. For instance, the Finance Act ruling. Justice Mugure Thande was transferred after having issued stay orders against the Finance Act. She was transferred. So my general point at the end of the day is, why do we actually need the law? If we feel obligated to suspend the law, the effect would be, we would be reverting back to the dark days during the Moi regime. What would it mean, for instance, for government critics? What would it mean for the freedom of expression? If somebody feels as if you step this way, we can suspend the law to deal with you. If as my friend argued, you come into my land and this matter drags for 5 years, that is the law, that is the due process. Show us how the law is defective. You don't just allow anybody to go out and start shooting anybody else just because you feel as if your property rights are violated. The final issue, Eugene, is this. Cartelism or corruption or whatever you want to call it, it can only thrive or exist in a favorable environment. Why have these things thrived? It means there have been conditions, be they political, socio or economic, that have favored the existence of these so-called cartels. If anything, we do not know them. So let the government address those conditions within the law.
I get your point. But now let me come to Seko, to Swale. There's a very important question I would love to ask you about the president's visit to the Western. And this is quite political, being that you're a political analyst. There's prior to the visit of the president to the Western, he actually met some leaders, some political leaders. But conspicuously, there were key figures who are actually consequential figures in the Western politics, not there, which actually caused some jitters among some leaders from the Western, thinking that this is done to cause some issues among the Western leaders, because the other ones that met the president, led by UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala and a lean delegation selected from Kakamega, Bungoma, Vihiga and Trans Nzoia. The question is, why was Mudavadi, why was other leaders who we have seen, very key figures, not there?
Thank you, Eugene. I think the presidential meeting...
Is it a political?
it's within the protocol. I think it is within the protocol. The protocol can decide not to invite because there is matters concern about security, the presidential security, and the presidential information. So when president decides to meet A and B and sideline C and D, it's within the protocol. I don't see any smoky issue that could raise any alarm as far as the meeting was concerned. Secondly,
don't you think, let me act as the devil's advocate. Don't you think that when someone calls your wife for a meeting and leaves you the owner of the house?
Let me tell you, Eugene, our president is one person of a sound mind. He's not a madman. He's one person of a sound mind. When he decides to do something, it does something that favors.
Isn't this causing division amongst the loyal leaders?
It isn't. Which division?
Okay.
Which division? Let me tell you, Eugene, before you go there. President is a symbol of unity.
Okay.
President is the big boss, is the big man. If he decides to meet me and not to meet you, where's the problem? Is it that everything that president says with me must stay with you? Maybe, as far as that meeting was concerned, president wanted to discuss issues with those people, those who are present then. And there is no breach of protocol.
Okay.
And there is no breach of any hierarchy.
Okay. Let me go to Ruto. Just give us your thoughts, maybe in a few seconds, as we move shift to the next.
I think if you'll allow me to just mention something that he talked about, and I'd like to bring to your attention that my friend here, there was a lot of doublespeak in whatever he was saying, because on one side he says the judiciary has a right to make those decisions, but then he has a problem with a judge being transferred, because when a judge signs a contract, he offers himself to work anywhere in Kenya, and it's within the judicial norms to transfer, just like a teacher can be transferred. So I think it would be wrong to assert that conclusively, unless there's evidence adduced to the effect that it was because of that ruling. Two, institutions are created by us, and we can be wrong even in creating those institutions. So when they don't work, we have a right, even before we change them, to call them out. That doesn't mean we don't respect them. Thirdly, we have always talked about lack of goodwill from the big office. Now the president has decided, he talked about the environment being favorable for cartels. The president has now decided to make it very unfavorable for cartels to thrive. We have a problem with that. Okay, to our point, as a person, I believe, like my friend has said, the president, even you, Eugene, you have a right to meet whoever you want, anytime you want. I don't think that should cause any fuss, because the president has a lot of people that he meets. And every day, that's why he's that busy to a point where you might not find him anywhere. So Mimi, I don't think anyone who worries about the president meeting Eugene and not meeting me, or meeting you in my absence, I think that is someone who just has to deal with their inferiority complex, because there are a lot of divergent issues that are being dealt with, especially issues like Western. There are different issues that are being dealt with to a point where probably everyone might have been assigned a role. So when you are assigned a role, do it.
Okay, because of time, I want us to shift focus to a different issue, and that is the bipartisan talks. Well, Kimani Ichung'wah, Kalonzo Musyoka, Kimani Ichung'wah, we know, said unprintable words to the Azimio team. And of course, Kalonzo Musyoka has been known to be a very great critic of the Kenya Kwanza government's leadership, from Rigathi Gachagua, from the president even to the Rigathi Gachagua, even Kimani Ichung'wah himself. These people have sat down, they've come with certain points. What make this conversation or this dialogue to be more promising than what we have had previously? Let me start with you, Seko Swale.
Eugene,
yes.
Let me tell you this one, and this is the pure truth. You know, we need to not lie to Kenyans.
Yes.
There is even no need of dialogue. For what? What are people talking about? What are people talking about in the first place? Dialogue is for what? You know, the intentions of Azimio or to frustrate the government, to make the country ungovernable, until they are called on the table and they are compromised by being given share of the government. That has not come to a reality.
So, sorry, I know you're not a visitor in Jerusalem, and so I'm asking you this question. We understand and we know where we have come from as a country. We're now at the dialogue table. Don't you think it is important that we have this dialogue? And now that we have it, is it promising?
Eugene, it is not important to have a dialogue.
Is it promising, the one that we have?
It is not promising. The government is in place had a plan, and they had a promise to the wananchi. They had drawn how they will come to issues affecting the Republic of Kenya citizens. So they are not new people who just came in the country yesterday.
Okay.
They know the issues affecting Kenyans. So by saying so, I want to tell you the government has got a proper plan to lower the cost of living, of which you have seen the president and and its government has started doing so by giving a subsidy, a low rate price on the production sector, that is fertilizer. By doing so, the cost of living or the cost of food, as claimed by Azimio, will come down. So what are they talking about? If the president and its government is already distributing fertilizers, it's already having other plans to lower the cost of living. What are they discussing about? There is nothing like promising dialogue. If it were me today, that dialogue would have been scrapped off immediately.
Okay. Wakila will come to you, but again, let me go to Odue directly. Odue, we understand the nature of this conversation from where it has come from and where now it is. We understand that it was important for the dialogue to happen. Now that we're here, is it promising? And again, we understand that the Kenya Kwanza team has said that they cannot talk about certain issues. And number one is on the issues of the election result and the cost of living, being that the cost of living is still in court. How do you think that these issues contribute to the complexity of the negotiations and the dynamics generally, bearing the fact that the major contentious issue that led these two teams to sit in a dialogue table was the cost of living?
Sometimes, and I'm speaking as a man who has been on that side. Sometimes supporting Raila can be a burden. That can turn into something else. How someone, you see, when you look at that, if you're looking at people like Otiende Abondo, people like James Orego, how those people cannot tell that old man that the elections are over, please. This guy is the president. How someone like Kalonzo, who is supposed to be a president now, baada anapigishwa PE kwa street, akienda negotiations over some very useless things. You wonder what this man is looking for. So, my friend, me, I've always held the opinion that these are things are wasting our money. Wanakunywa chai ya bure huko Bomas too. Wasting our money. These are people who are telling us about the high cost of living, and they are spending the little money that a country has at Bomas, eating and getting allowances for just doing nothing. When you have a constitution that already prescribes on how we should do all these things. My friend Eugene, I have said this before and I'll say it again. The conversation is never about Kenyans. The conversation is never about the cost of living. If the conversation was about the cost of living, they would have drafted an alternative bill, taken it to the National Assembly, either to repeal some sections or to approve a new bill. That is the only way to bring down the cost of living. Chewing some mandazis and tea at Bomas does not help anyone. So all this, and that's why the president insisted, if we want to solve the issue of the cost of living, let's go to parliament.
Okay.
That's where the law originated. That's where we can either change or repeal that law.
You're talking about parliament. It's quite interesting. Wakili, there's a certain clause that actually has been introduced by the two teams. Now, this particular clause allows that on a contentious issue that the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza fails to agree upon, they have to take it to the parliament, and that is the National Assembly and the Senate. As we understand the tyranny of numbers, we know who has the numbers. Kenya Kwanza has got the numbers. Where does this place Mr. Odinga Does it place him at a disadvantage? And it's quite a challenge. Can we call it a poisoned chalice for Mr. Odinga?
Well, Eugene, the first issue is I don't think this is not about Raila Odinga.
Yes.
For me, from where I sit, it's about what Kenyans want. It is not about Raila Odinga. Talking about Raila, we are bringing in politics. Of course, politics got us there, but politics is not the only thing on the table. Contrary to what we are arguing, there are two angles to looking at it. The first angle is, are the matters that will be presented to Parliament matters that should be addressed by Parliament? Two, are we looking at the political alignments within the House, Senate and the National Assembly? I'll start with the second one because it's easier, or rather, the first one was easier, but I choose to go with the second one. In terms of political alignments, of course we all know, so far Kenya Kwanza has the majority in both houses. So it will be a tough ride, if anything. But my consolation would go back to this. Should there be matters that go to the House, these matters should not be matters that should have gone to a referendum. Because if it's a referendum question, then you go to the people. Definitely, there are some issues that have been said to either require parliamentary to go the parliamentary way, or we go the people way through a referendum. So only those matters that can be addressed by the House should go to the House. Those matters that cannot be addressed by the House and require referendum should go to a referendum. My brothers do not seem to agree that we need dialogue. But they're forgetting that dialogue is part of good governance. For us to actually hold the government of the day to account, you can use many avenues under the Constitution. One avenue was Article 37, demonstrations. We were told that demonstrations are not helping, let us have dialogue. Now we have dialogue, again we are saying this dialogue should be scrapped off. So what do you want? Because the country either way has to be held to account. And let us not lie to each other, Eugene. There are issues that need to be addressed. For instance, the inclusivity in public appointments. These are matters that everybody can see. The second issue, whereas the elections ended, but several quarters in the country are saying, this should not be the main issue. It should be one of the issues. Let us audit the elections. If there's nothing to hide, let us put everything on the table. You know, because electoral democracy has raised several critical issues. Look at West Africa, what is happening currently. And just the other day, we had a president that was removed in Gabon, immediately coming from an election. So these are matters that we need to address. Let me look at the legal aspect, or the legal structure of this matter. One, it will be brief.
Yes.
One, we have a law, and this whole dialogue has been embedded into a legal framework by both parties. Yeah? So it is clearly legal so far as it is, unless they address matters that they shouldn't be. Two, we have real issues that are on the table, and right now there are proposals. So let us not preempt on whether these matters will go to Parliament. When we get there, we will see what comes out of the discussions.
Okay.
Yes.
Odweyo and Swale, there's actually a question that I would love us to look at, even as we come to the end of this conversation because of time. But I would love to start with you, Mohammed, because we understand that these bipartisan talks has got that got a lot of issues, and one of them was even as they happened, we had the president and even the deputy president saying that our jamaa, mimi nitawafanya nini? Nitawakalia ngumu. And then the deputy president says this conversation is going nowhere. But despite these challenges and concerns which come from the political class, Kalonzo Musyoka, one of the key leaders leading this dialogue teams, has expressed determination for talks to succeed. Now, maybe from where you sit, you're looking at the political landscape of Kenya. What is actually the implications of the success or the failures of these bipartisan talks? Kalonzo Musyoka says ignore the naysayers. Now, what, from where you sit as a political analyst, you're looking at the political scene, landscape generally.
Now, let me tell you. You know, our people have been colonized mentally for a very long time. People's brains have been colonized, including Kalonzo Musyoka. He's not even seeing what is at his feet.
Colonized by who?
People's minds have been colonized by one individual in this Republic of Kenya called Raila Amolo Odinga. Brother, this talk will not lead anywhere. Ruto president has given them a very better option, very, very better. An opposition in the parliament paid by public resources. If someone wants to oppose the government, if someone wants to raise any issue against the government, bunge, there is an office with a budget. Iko pesa ya chai hapo. He goes there and discuss all that there. But this story of taking people left, right, center, taking people into cycles in the name of the country spirit, okay. I want to tell you, from where I'm seated, that is a nonsense, and no one should entertain that.
Alive to the political issues at hand, on particularly matters concerning the bipartisan talk, the dialogue that is continuing, what are the implications, the broader implications, if they succeed or they fail?
No, the broader implication here is that we have what I would call over-entitled brats, people who believe that they must be number one, even if they don't go to class. That is the danger. That is the precedent we are setting, and it's very dangerous. Okay. For me, these talks, and that's why there's that clause, the moment the president insisted on things being done constitutionally. Mm-hmm. Contrary to what my friend is saying, this dialogue, these conversations are not constitutional. They are very unconstitutional because they are not. There is nowhere in the Constitution where we talk of post-election dialogue for us to govern. Okay. Elections end when after the Supreme Court proclamation, and then we move forward. So going forward, my call to Kenyans, especially leaders, will be elections are a zero-sum game to the politicians. Only one will win. But at the end of the day, it's non-zero-sum to the people of Kenya. And that's why once elections are over, people come together, the way the president is doing, come together, join hands, move around everywhere, let's work together and move forward. Not necessarily by us forcing ourselves into those positions, because the government is for all of us, and all of us are government.
Okay. Kindly, your parting shot as we come to the end of the show.
Thank you so much, Eugene. I have 3 issues that I want to say. One, fellow Kenyans, we have a chance at dialogue. Let's give it a chance. Dialogue is good. Adversary and antagonistic politics have never helped us. We had 207 that came and went. We had the 1990s that came and went. So let us give dialogue a chance. We have 7 days, as the technical committee advised us. We have 7 days to give our views on the key issues that have been raised by this technical committee. Let us give our opinions, comment, and help in addressing the key governance and constitutional issues that are on the table. 2, dear President, you have a plan. The plan is good. The plan, we might see it as abstract. It's good, but for you to implement it, you need to look at your entire team. You need to implement it in goodwill. You need to consult the stakeholders who are citizens. May you involve all stakeholders for this plan to work. My final issue is that the president and all state officers should ensure that whatever they do is within the law. Let them uphold the rule of law. Let them uphold good governance. And at the end of the day, may constitutionalism govern all state actions and private actions. May we not be ruled by fiat. May we be ruled by the rule of law.
Thank you so much. There is a parting shot. Sir, what is the parting shot, even as we come to the end of the show?
Oh, thank you very much, Eugene. I appreciate the time. And I wish to tell the Kenyans, let no one sell anybody fear. We are in a country, this is our country, we want to go anywhere. As far as the political issues are concerned, our president has made us on the right path. Together we shall succeed as Kenya government. Together we shall succeed as the people of the Republic of Kenya. Let us focus on the main issues affecting our people and not to diverse our mentality or our thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, sir. My call to Kenyans is that we have a government and we have a constitution. Let's come together, because the government is not the president, the deputy, the cabinet, or there's nothing like a UDA government or a Kenya Kwanza government. As per our constitutional and even international statutes, we have a government called the Government of Kenya. Let's support it. There is a plan. There is a plan that is meant to uplift the Kenyans at the bottom of the economic pyramid. Let's come together, embrace it, cut away the politics, cut away the non-issues, and build our economy. We are in a hole, but we are the only ones who can drive our country out of that hole. So let's come together, bring our ideas together, and work within the constitutional framework.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this wonderful and great conversation, which of course is meant to enlighten and educate our viewers. But the last time we were here previously, you were contesting for a seat. How did it go?
No, my friend is almost making me to also go look for bipartisan talks. You should. I should also go for
bipartisan talks.
Yes, now it means that everyone who lost the election should go for bipartisan talk, for there to be peace and development.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because of time, we're taking, we of course end the show at this moment, and of course on behalf of everyone who has made this a success, we want to wish you a very good night. We understand, we know that this is a conversation that we intentionally bring deliberate conversations on different perspectives on matters politics, conversations on current affairs, and much issues that affect you. My name is Eugene Ochienkwat, and every Friday 7 p.m. at GBS TV Africa, The Insight comes to you from Nairobi.